I survive an entire year in the most realistic Minecraft world. Oh, great, a snowstorm started. It's so realistic that even the first step of Minecraft, punching a tree, just hurts my hand. So I picked up some stones off the ground and carved them into an axe head to craft an axe. Now I can actually chop down a tree. It just takes a while. But to survive an entire year, we'll need the essentials like food, clean drinking water, and a safe place to live. Because we'll have to survive animal attacks and insane weather. Is that a tornado? I saw a goat in the forest and I didn't want to, but I had to unalive it for food. I can eat the meat if I really need to, but it'll make me sick if I don't cook it first. So hopefully we can build a fire soon before we starve. But now the snowstorm finally stopped and then I ran into what felt like a dead end. Oh my gosh. A huge river was blocking my path, so I had no choice but to turn back when a wild bear attacked me. No, 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 no. Go! Now I'm stuck floating in this freezing river that's also infested with piranhas. Uh-oh. No. Not even the water's safe. Oh, there's some more. I gotta swim. Get up on land. It looks like this river comes to a dead end. I was completely lost. What do I do? I noticed vines hanging down, and those might be the only way out of this. I got bit by another piranha, but started using my logs to bridge to the vines. I'm really hurt right now. I'm down to 2 hearts. But the vines don't even reach to the top, so they wouldn't help me escape. My heart was beating like crazy, and the piranhas were still right under me. I think I have to swim across and hope that cave takes me up to the surface. So I dove in and swam to the other side. I'm being pushed down by the river. Go, 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 go. Okay. Oh, we're up. Luckily, this cave was able to bring me to the surface. It's officially nighttime now. If there's any more animals that want to hurt me hiding in the woods, it's over. But I had no choice but to go in the woods to try to find a place to survive. A wolf. Oh, no, 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 no. This way, this way, this way. Wait, what is this? Oh my gosh, a villager. Oh my gosh, some safety. By a huge stroke of luck, I found this villager's hidden home, and I decided to spend the night here and wait until morning. And that was only day 1. I have to survive in this world for an entire year, made up of all 4 seasons, starting at the beginning of spring and surviving through the heat of summer, insane tornadoes in the fall, and somehow not starve through the winter where the water is frozen, no crops will grow, and there's crazy snowstorms. But that's all coming later. The next morning, I left the villager's house and had to get a drink from the nearby river, but since this isn't clean drinking water, it gave me the exhausted effect, which makes me move slower. So I need to get clean water as soon as possible. And I was running really low on food. All I had to eat was this raw meat and 2 wild wheat plants I found. But that's when I stumbled across another villager's house in the woods. And since night was setting in, I decided to make myself at home. Hopefully he doesn't mind. The villager had a fire pit inside, so I crafted a fire starter and cut down a tree for logs to use as fuel and cook my food so it was safe to eat. And then I stepped outside to look at the moon to see what time it was, and oh my gosh, why is he on fire? Oh no, the house is burning. Oh no, I didn't know that the fire pit could light the house on fire. No, I'm so sorry. The forest is burning. Oh no, it's literally crumbling. Oh, the tree is falling apart. Okay, we have to go. We have to go. We have to go. I was forced to head out into the wilderness in the middle of the night, hiding from the animals until the sun rose the next morning, where I followed the river and eventually ended up at the ocean. And I was getting very thirsty, so I had no choice but to drink the ocean water. Oh, it just makes me more thirsty to drink salt water. Okay, we have to go back up. We need to find fresh water to drink like right now. Even though it's not fresh and I can get sick from it, river water was safer to drink than the ocean water. But a snow leopard was blocking the path back to the river, so I had to walk all the way around the long way. It's faster to walk through the water than to walk through the snow. And with literally a sliver of thirst left, I got to the river and drank the water, which again made me exhausted, but it was still better than the ocean water. And I'm nauseous, so great. I collected some fish, took out a goat for more food, then spent the night in a cave. I think we'll stay here hiding in the cave until morning. But the next day, after crafting a spear and hunting a little bit more food, I finally found a good place to set up camp. I think this area is safe. And we have access to a cave right here, plenty of trees for wood, we have water. This seems like a good spot to set up our camp. So I guess let's get to work. I carved a knife and used it to collect some straw from all the nearby grass and crafted that into thatch blocks. Since blocks like dirt will fall to gravity and wood is slow to collect, thatch was the cheapest option to build a small tent with as a base. And then I made a hoe to plant the seeds we got earlier, but crops in realistic Minecraft can take entire months to grow. So I won't be harvesting these for quite a while. Okay, now that we have a little bit of a setup, we need to find some clay. Because in realistic Minecraft, I can't just make a glass bottle to drink from. I can't just craft the stone pickaxe or a furnace to smelt stuff. Instead, I have to use clay and mold it into things like a jug to hold water, a vessel to smelt our ores in, and molds for things like a pickaxe head and other tools. And out in the snow, protected by a pack of wolves, I found a patch of clay. So I gathered all of that and made my way back home. Again, having to drink the dirty pond water, which poisoned me this time. We need clean water very soon. I molded the clay I found into vessels to melt our ores in later. I made some jugs to hold drinking water, some large vessels for storage, plus a few other things that would be useful later. But to actually use this stuff we made, we need to fire it all in a pit of straw and logs and light it up. It takes 8 minutes for that all to cook. So while I was waiting, I went scavenging in the forest and found some beetroots to bring back for food and to plant the seeds. And now that the firing is done, I can store those beets in a large vessel, which I can seal, extending the time before they expire. Because just like real life, food in this mod pack will expire if you don't eat it fast enough or preserve it somehow. But the most important thing I fired is this empty pan. Since crafting a wood or stone pickaxe doesn't exist in realistic Minecraft, the only way to get our first ores is by using this empty pan to pick up gravel and sift it in the water. And this has a small chance to drop copper powder. Copper is the very first tier of metal that we can use, and 20 copper powder is equal to 1 ingot. So I spent the night sifting through gravel for copper in this hot spring near the base because it started snowing and I was getting cold. And that made me realize I needed to make a bed so I could pass the night. In regular Minecraft, you'd make a bed with wool, but in realistic Minecraft, I need to use string to make silk cloth to make a bed. And to actually start getting string, I harvested a bunch of leaves using a crook, which drops silkworms, and using these on leaves will infest them, eventually turning them all white, and they'll drop string when you break them. So we'll have to wait for all of that. I finished sifting for copper and ended up with enough powder for 4 ingots. But to actually use the powder to get those ingots, I need to put them in the vessels we made earlier and fire them, which melts the powder into a liquid that we can pour into these molds we made, finally letting us craft a copper pickaxe, an axe, a saw, which we'll need to make wooden planks, and a prospector's pickaxe, which doesn't mine ores, but instead it can be used to locate ores when mining. And since ores are much more rare in this world, this pickaxe is insanely useful to have. But I won't have time to go mining until a little bit later. For now, I spent the night chopping trees with my new axe and using one of those logs to create a chopping block, which lets me chop logs into support beams and saw those into lumber, which I can finally use to craft planks. So after literal days, we finally were able to make a crafting table. The first thing I crafted was a chest because I was running real low on storage, and finally having access to wood like this is a massive milestone. But of course, it wasn't time to celebrate yet because I was starving, almost out of hunger, and no food left. I had to go scavenge for some, and to make it worse, a spring snowstorm started. There was no way I could find food like this where I can't see anything, but I did remember what direction to go in to find the ocean from earlier, which hopefully will have some fish in it that I can eat. Luckily, the storm ended by the time I got there, but my vision was starting to gray because of how hungry I was. But I was right. In a flooded ravine by the ocean, there was a ton of fish and shellfish, which I was able to bring back and cook at the base. So I survived for now, but food wasn't going to become any less of a problem anytime soon. For now though, living in this little hut isn't going to keep me safe either. So I figured it was time to actually build a proper house out of some stronger materials. So I mixed together dirt and water to create mud, which I can combine with straw to make wet mud bricks. I have to lay these out on the ground and let them dry for 24 minutes before I can actually craft them into blocks. So while I was waiting for that, I flattened out the area where I wanted to build the house, and by the time I was done, the mud bricks were ready. So I picked those all up and was forced to drink the unclean water again, which really did a number on me. I really need to get purified water soon. But I powered through for now and used those mud bricks and spruce logs to place a foundation for the house. And having a house in realistic Minecraft isn't just to look nice. During the summer, which is now only a few days away, there is horrible weather I'll need to stay protected from, and it gets very hot outside. Luckily up here in the mountains, it's quite a bit colder, so we probably won't have to worry about the heat that much, but the wind and the weather in the mountains is much worse. But as I was putting the final touches on the house, a pack of wolves spotted me. The wolves are circling my house with me stuck inside. I waited until they got distracted and booked it out the front door, quickly picking up sticks and stones off the ground and crafting 3 spears. And when the wolves spotted me again, I ran across the ice, pillaring up with the logs I had, so I was barely out of reach. I could still hit the wolves with my spears, but the wolves are smart. As they were getting low on health, they would run away from me, saving their own lives. But I took this chance to go on the offensive and take out this wolf stuck in the water. But the other wolves in the pack took advantage of that and came after me again, forcing me to pillar back up to safety. Now the wolves were mostly keeping their distance, but I couldn't just let them get away. I really needed the food they drop, and if they get away, they would eventually come back. And if they caught me off guard, I could easily lose that fight. I was able to take out most of the wolves, but still 3 of them did get away, and it's not safe for me to go looking for them in the forest. So I made my way back home, and I had to stay cautious just in case they came back. But at least that was some food. So I took this time to finish building the house, since summer is just around the corner, and I'm gonna need protection from the harsh weather. All right, there is the finished house. I think it actually turned out pretty good. Once these bricks dry, I'm gonna put some stairs right here to get up. But otherwise, we have a good amount of space in here. We have all of our storage, we have some tools on the wall. And over here, we have all of our logs and our log piles and our chopping block. Overall, we have a much better and safer setup now. So I switched my focus over to getting a backpack so I can hold more than 9 slots of items. And we've gotten plenty of animal hide already, which I can turn into leather to craft one, but I'm going to need beeswax to do that. So I set up a beehive now, since it's gonna take quite a while for a bee to start living in this hive. So while we're waiting for that, I decided to grab my prospector's pickaxe and head out for our first mining adventure. When you right click the ground with this pickaxe, it'll tell you if there are any ores nearby, which might sound overpowered, but ores are so rare in this that it's basically a requirement to use this pickaxe. After searching for a long time, I finally found a vein of tetrahedrite ore, which sounds complicated, but it melts down into just regular copper. I guess it's just more realistic to have a fancy name, but I had to be careful because realistic mining can be dangerous. Mining too much without a support beam can cause the cave to collapse, and if a rock lands on my head, it's over. Oh, that was close. That could have been on me. Oh, the support beams even broke. Maybe that's a good sign to head back. As I was walking back to the base, I noticed that some of the snow was finally melting. As now we're in late spring, things are finally starting to warm up. But being up here high in the mountains means it's always going to be colder than normal, which would be good for when summer comes around so we don't overheat. But when winter comes, surviving in the mountains might literally be impossible. I found some wild crops in the forest, which should hold me over on food for a little bit, but these crops still wouldn't be grown for months. And I still have no source of fresh water. So before summer starts in a few days, we need clean water and we need to melt our ores into ingots. And doing that is actually quite a process. To start, we need a hammer to crush the ores into chunks. And then using a sluice, whatever that is, we can wash those chunks into smaller chunks. Then we need to craft a quern and a handstone to manually grind down those chunks into dirty dust, which I need to wash in the sluice again to get powder that we can melt into actual ingots. It's a big process. But while the rest of that is being washed, we need purified water now. And we finally have everything to do that. Making a pile of logs covered by dirt and lighting them on fire will eventually burn them into charcoal. And grinding that charcoal into powder, putting that in a clay pot full of water over a campfire will cause the water to start to boil. And as soon as that's done boiling in there, we'll have purified water that is finally safe to drink. And once it was ready, I stored the purified water in a wooden barrel and even made a bit extra. So we have a good stockpile of water to drink that'll hopefully last us a couple months because we are officially in summer now. So not only is the temperature rising, but I'm gonna have to deal with rainstorms and tornadoes and hope I can stay alive to complete my goal of surviving an entire year. But I finally finished working with all the copper ore and getting it ready to be smelted, which would be too slow to do with the vessels and fire like we had to do earlier. So instead, now that we have more materials, I can build a charcoal pit, which essentially is the furnace of realistic Minecraft, letting me use charcoal to melt all of this stuff into liquid copper to fill the molds and finally get us our first ingots. It's about time. And after all that work, we got 17 ingots. That's it. As happy as I was to finally have a few copper ingots, the hard thing about this challenge is that you are never allowed time to take a break because I was down to my final pieces of food. I only had enough left to last me a few days max, and my crops still aren't grown. I had no choice but to head out into the wilderness to try to find some food, which I knew wasn't going to be easy for how dangerous it is to be out here. Even in the summer, the snow hadn't fully melted all the way up here in the mountains, which made walking around even slower. And with only one jug of clean water and a few cabbages to live on, on, the slower I moved, the less of a chance I'd have to survive. I found a wild goose that I thought could be some good food, but it's so small, it would only be good for a single meal at most. And there was just no chance I can hunt any of the bigger animals right now. But eventually, I came across another river, which was full of salmon. So I gathered as many of those as I could while trying to swim against the river's current. Oh my gosh, fighting the river current is so hard. I couldn't catch up to more fish, so I got back to land and followed the river until I found this huge lake. Wow, what a pretty place this would have been to set up base. There was more salmon in the lake, but also a piranha came right at me. So I threw my spear at it and it bounced off the ground and hit me right in the eye. Did I just hit myself in the head? After a second, it healed and I threw my spear at another piranha and it disappeared. I don't know where my javelin just went. I made a new spear and got a few more fish before chopping trees and deciding to set up camp here and cook our food and spend the night collecting some fish. Oh, there's my other spear. I tried to get the meat from the goose I got earlier, but all I got out of it was feathers, which was sick and twisted to say the least. But as soon as the sun started to rise, I set back out into the wilderness to hopefully find more food. And I did find some wild beetroots, but now my inventory was completely full, so I had no choice but to head back home with what I'd found. But there were a couple things I did decide to leave behind so that I could bring back this wild garlic I found on the walk home. Oh, home. Once I got there, I stored the food I collected, which luckily wouldn't be expiring anytime soon, so at least I'm set for food for a little while, but it will eventually run out just from me eating it. So I made sure to plant the seeds to try to be prepared for the future, because once winter comes, all the crops will die, so we need to grow as much food as possible before that so we can actually try to survive the winter. But there are a few other survival necessities that I need to take care of as well. By heating back up the copper ingots to be hot enough, I can use my hammer and weld them together into double ingots. 7 of these craft the copper anvil, which will let me make a ton more stuff out of copper. If only I had more than 3 ingots left. We'll have to go mining again later, but for now, the silkworms from earlier have been infesting leaves, and I've collected a good amount of string. So using this loom, we can weave it into silk cloth. And with 3 of these, I can craft a bed. Now for the first time, we can actually sleep. Oh, that feels so nice. And that morning, I wanted to use some of the little remaining copper I had to make myself a copper axe. And now is probably a good time to explain how forging works. First, you have to heat up the metal to make it hot enough to weld. You put it in the anvil and select what you want to make. And you have to hammer the ingot by pressing these 8 buttons, ending in a specific order to move this little arrow to line up with this arrow, which is much harder than it seems because it needs to be exact. Even this wasn't good enough. It's pretty complicated, but you can keep trying as long as you want. But the longer it takes you, the worse the item will turn out. Poorly forged. Okay, you don't have to be rude. Forging metals is hard, okay? But now I have a better axe than stone, which is a massive upgrade because stone axes are very slow. Timber. Maybe cut that out. What's that cringe? I used these logs to create more charcoal before going to bed and then chopping the remaining logs into support beams so I could go on another mining trip for more materials. I was hoping to find ores to make bronze or iron or anything better than copper really, but after searching multiple caves and using my prospector's pick, I was finding literally nothing. Dude, there's no minerals anywhere. I did find a few small rabbits that I could bring home for food, but not much for ores. I ended up back at the cave where we got copper before, which did have a couple remaining ore, so I went further into the cave, but instead of ores, I just found things that wanted to hurt me. So, disappointed, I decided to head back up to the surface, and what is that? Is that a tornado? There's no way. There's no way. Wait, that's in the direction of my house. No. Oh gosh, and thunder? Please tell me this isn't on my house. Please. Wait, it's pulling me in. My hands are off the keyboard. No, 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 no. Get away, get away, get away, get away. How do I get home? My house is that way. It's getting bigger. No, I hope the house is okay. We have to get back. We have to run this way. I made some distance, and now the tornado was a decent ways away, and I was safe. But the only question was, did the tornado run over my house? There's the base. I think it looks okay. There it is. I don't think it came through this area. I think we're okay. The base looks safe. Okay, good, 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 good. That could have been bad. I got lucky this time, but as we enter the fall season, this weather is only going to get worse. And even though the base survived the tornado this time, it was looking like I may have a zombie problem too. The zombies are much scarier in realistic Minecraft because if you get bit by one, you become infected. And unless I get something like a golden apple or a golden carrot to cure myself, it's over. Just one bite, the infection takes over, and I'm dead. And I don't have any gold to make a cure anyway, so I had to be extra careful. And with all these survival conditions getting much more dangerous, I decided to really start preparing. With the single copper ingot I had left, I forged a copper javelin to have as a weapon. And I did find traces of more copper when I was running home from the tornado, so I went back there to mine it, and there was a ton here. I had to fight a rhino to escape the cave, but other than that, it went pretty well. And I spent that night processing all the ore ores I got. I want to get a good pickaxe out of this, but I did not succeed at that. Yes, poorly forged. Great. Of course it was. I'm really not a good blacksmith, but while the rest of the copper was getting processed, I wanted to address my inventory problem by finally crafting a backpack, which requires leather. And to start turning rawhide into leather, I have to put flux in a barrel of water to make lime water. And I have to seal this large hide in there for 8 minutes. And I will say, one of the best things about this mod, you can see it's turning night. This has about 7 minutes left, but if we sleep, time actually passes and it's done soaking. So nice. Normal Minecraft should have that feature. But that's just step 1 of making leather. I also need to scrape the hide, soak that in salt water for 8 minutes, which I avoided a tornado to get, put logs in a barrel of water to get tannin, soak the hide in there for 8 minutes, finally use our bees to get beeswax, craft treated lumber, grind up bones and soak them in lime water for 8 minutes to get glue, use those to craft a mixing bowl and a spoon, cut up 3 tree seeds and boil it for seed oil water, coat the hide in that in the mixing bowl, scrape the hide again, and then finally, using a sewing table, use shears to cut the hide into leather. That took a real life hour. It's now officially fall. This is our last season to prepare for the winter, where we'll need plenty of food, warm clothes, and a safe place to live. But before winter even gets here, fall is gonna have its own challenges too. Before I could even finish making my backpack, no, there's no way. Not in the middle of me making my backpack. A massive tornado was forming right by my base, and it was already close enough to start pulling me in. No, oh my gosh, no, run, hide in the house. Oh my gosh, is it coming right for me? Dude, what do I do? The tornado was on the path to go straight through my house. It's so strong, the wind pulled me up against the wall and I couldn't move. It's gonna hit right in the house. No, I can't move. I broke down the support beam, but the tornado just pulled me inside and through the top of the roof. No! It pulled me through the roof. No! Oh no! Now I'm trapped in the tornado so high up, I'm running out of oxygen. Let me down! My only hope to live is to be thrown into the nearby ocean and hope I can survive the fall. And as if right on cue, the tornado dropped me. Oh my gosh! What? That still leaves the question, what damage did the tornado do to the house? Some blocks are missing. It literally tore apart part of the house. No, part of the roof is missing. Our crops are still here. The bees are still here. It just swiped the corner of the house, but it can pull me through a thatch roof. I think we need to completely change the house. This is not safe. A house built out of weak materials like thatch and mud bricks was not going to hold up against this bad weather. And with the house getting torn apart, I would surely freeze during the winter. And living on top of this mountain, it was already cold enough for a snowstorm to start. No, I can't do this. We need to leave this area. So that's what I decided to do. I needed a new place to live, but where? Oh my gosh, we should move to that lake we found before and set up camp at. So that was the plan. I finished crafting our backpack and loaded it up with all the important stuff I owned and traveled back to the lake we found earlier. And this is where our new home is gonna be. Over the next couple nights, I moved everything over to the new location and I even ended up running into something I had forgotten about. Oh my gosh, no way. This is where I stayed on day 1. I placed this thatch. No way. What a weird coincidence that we would cross that right now. And as I was grabbing the last of our things and finally harvesting our crops, it was time to say goodbye to our first home. All right, say goodbye to the house. This is everything we're taking. There's no way crops are gonna get grown by the winter, so I can't even bother bringing any seeds. This is goodbye, house. You kept me safe for a long time, and now, as a new tornado is starting to form, I gotta get out of here. So for the last time, I left our first house and was ready to make this new place a home. I set up the essentials like a fire pit and a place to wash our ores, but with winter only about a month away, it was time to get serious. I need food, warm clothes, and a safe home. But it's late autumn now. Things are starting to get cold. Literally the entire lake is almost frozen. I really think I need to focus on building some walls here so we at least kind of have a house. So that's step 1 on the to-do list, building a safe house. Soaking sand in a barrel of lime water turns it into mortar, and chiseling down rocks into bricks lets us combine it all into stone brick blocks, which will be much stronger and keep us safe against the bad weather. Luckily, the weather has been much more calm now that we're not living on top of a mountain, so I just needed to make the foundation out of stone bricks, and I'm going to use wood for the rest, because even though it's not as strong of a material, it's much easier to collect and should still do the job. But as I was building, a snowstorm started, so I had to switch my priority to making warm clothes so I don't freeze. At first, I made a set of wool clothes out of string I'd been collecting, but they weren't thick enough to actually provide me any warmth. So instead, using the rest of the leather I owned, I made a set of leather armor, and using plant fabric and plant string, I can craft insulated leather clothes, which will keep me much warmer during the winter. All right, a full set of insulated clothes, so hopefully we can stay warm during this winter. And at this point, there's only a few days left until winter would officially start. I think we really need to finish this house. So I chopped down a few more trees to get some wood. I'm not too cold out here, and it's the middle of the night, so I think our armor is working. I spent the next morning chopping the wood into actual planks and built up the walls some more. But even just wood planks in realistic Minecraft are very time consuming to get. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh my gosh, that almost landed on me. So I had to settle for using mud bricks for the roof, which aren't the strongest material, but at least they'll protect me more than the thatch roof I had on the old house. And now winter has officially started, and I'm almost completely out of food. I have enough to maybe last me a few days max. And it's not like we can grow any crops in this weather. We might have to leave the base in search of animals. But if I'm gonna go out in the wilderness like this hunting for animals, I'm gonna need some extra armor for defense too. So I used every piece of copper that I own and forged a chest plate and leggings to put over top of my warm clothes. Plus, I made a few extra spears just in case. So now, with literally all the food I have left in the world, I headed out into the wilderness to hunt for animals for food we desperately need. At first, all I could find was a single rabbit, which on its own was not much food. But then I spotted a deer in the trees. I caught up to it and was able to get a little bit more food, but this was still only enough to last me a couple days at most. And we need enough food to last for like 2 months. But even with our armor, it's still too dangerous to try to hunt animals at night. So I pulled my sleeping bag out of my backpack and made a fire to stay warm and cook some of the food before heading to bed for the night. But bright and early the next day, I got back to hunting when I spotted exactly what I needed: a wild pig. Pigs are one of the animals that give you the most amount of meat by far. Getting just this pig could literally feed me for the entire winter. But right in the way to get to the pig was a giant rhino. It started chasing me, and even with my armor, I knew there was no way I could live through even a single hit, so I had to pillar up again and was able to use my copper spears to take it out. That made me lose track of the pig though, but after wandering around and searching for a little bit, I found it. Oh, let's go. This pig could feed a family for generations. This is literally all we need for the winter. All I have to do now is find my way home, and following this river downstream would hopefully lead me back to the lake that we live by. What is that? A hippo? But the trip home was off to a bad start. I ran out of clean drinking water and got sick drinking river water. Oh, great. Of course, a snowstorm happens right now. Okay, I have to keep the river next to me. That's the only way I'll know how to not get lost. But after the snowstorm finally cleared up, I was able to safely follow the river right back to the lake. Yes! Oh my gosh, we're home. I found my way back, and after taking a sip of clean water for the first time in days, it was time to get to business. Vegans, close your eyes. First things first, hang up the pig. That is so morbid. Okay. While I got the rest of this food cooking, we can chop up this pig and use a cutting board to cut it up into even more meat. And after cooking all of it, we ended up with over an entire pound of pork, which will easily last us through the winter. So with that, and having plenty of clean water and warm clothes and a safe house, the final month of winter went incredibly smoothly. I spent an afternoon carving out a canoe that we could use as soon as the lake thaws out. I built a dock to go along with that. I even visited the old house to take all the seeds I left behind so we could start a new farm by the lake when spring comes around. And I even did a little bit more building on the house to make the whole area just look a bit nicer. And on this morning, that officially marks the first day of spring. We made it an entire year. Thanks for watching.